Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Soapbox Slam, where I get on my soapbox and I slam the things that I see going on. Today's slam, what I'm on my soapbox about today, has to do with going on down in Texas. Like I said, I've had three major states that I've lived in my life: New York, Illinois, and Texas. And currently, right now, the governor of Texas is Governor Abbott. And Texas has been battling for years with a illegal migration problem, or an illegal immigrant problem, or I don't even like to use the word migration, migrant workers or migration, because it insinuates and it minimizes the crime in which people coming into this country illegally, coming into this country. It minimizes what they are doing. And you know, I understand quite clearly the economics of it all. I understand quite clearly the colonial and imperialism of the United States and what it's done to Central America and South America. I understand all that. I truly do. But it's two parts when we talk about this colonialism and imperialism, because one of the major differences in, you know, 1600, 1800 colonialism and colonialism of the past, imperialism of the past versus imperialism now is, in the past, corporations and individuals were responsible for the bulk of the expense to colonize, migrate, bring migration in, and things like that. Today, it is socialized and subsidized by the American public, middle and lower class people who are not prosperous in America. And because there is no prosperity in America, the only prosperity that exists in America is the prosperity for the extremely wealthy people who have the excess funds to invest in stocks and create wealth through dividends and generational wealth from families past and everything else. One particular sect of the American population. But you know, today, the biggest issue with migration versus migration even in the 20s and 30s and things like that is the American public, the backs of middle class and lower class people who are working class people and everything else. We are subsidizing through our taxes and our resources. And the resources isn't just financial resources. Resources are things like our schools are being, I mean, literally, like in New York, students are kicked out of their schools, forced to do remote learning so that a bunch of migrants can come in and be housed in schools. I mean, these are our resources, not just our tax dollars, our resources, our buildings, our government properties that are being used to subsidize people who came to this country illegally, who were not invited, who didn't go through the process. And it's not racist, it's not bigotry, and it's not prejudiced. It's just America first. The people who work like me 16 hours a day, 10 to 16 hours a day, 6 days a week, to pay taxes and have those resources sent to somebody else or handed over to someone else. It's egregious, and it's foul, and it's wrong. And that's what this is all about. And I get on my soapbox because I actually support everything Texas is doing. I absolutely support. I look, Abbott is not my favorite person in the whole wide world. Texas is not my favorite state, even though I own a home there. But I will say that there's something in the formula of Texas and their policies that is enabling Texas to succeed. I mean, we have had tax reductions. There are surpluses in budgets. There are, and a lot of that has to do with there's so many jobs in Texas, so there's so much contribution to the tax pile, to the tax collection in the coffers. But there's a lot of things that Texas is doing right, and there's a lot. I actually like Governor Abbott. I think that, yes, I do believe in my heart of hearts, absolute power corrupts absolutely, and at some point, too much power with Governor Abbott will probably more than likely force him to, or entice him, seduce him to do some pretty shady shit if he hasn't already done it. But I mean, there's a lot of things with the state of Texas that I have huge problems with. But all in all, when it comes to this immigration policy, I wholeheartedly agree with the efforts that Texas and Governor Abbott has made. I agree with putting razor sharp buoys in the water on our side of the border. And you know what? If you're foolish enough, knowing that that stuff is in there, to try and cross with those razor sharp wires, that's on you. That is on you. I agree with the fact that a mass movement of Texas citizens, Texas residents, help build with containers and barbed wires and everything else their own wall, and they all moved down there, and they all moved to I agree with the fact that Governor Abbott has now thrown it back into these sanctuary city states and sanctuary cities and liberal states, and I hate to make this a Republican Democrat thing, because it's really not. To me, that's political pandering, and I am so sick and tired of the political pandering and the political demonization. Who cares if you're a bleeding heart? Who cares if you're ultra conservative? The only thing that I care about is what is being done to make my life as an American a prosperous life. And I do not want to socialize and subsidize the entire world. That includes Israel. That includes migrants. That includes non-American citizens. That includes all of that, right? I do not want to subsidize it. If I'm going to be a socialist, if I have to, and it's not that it's the worst thing, it is the way that Jesus Christ, if all of you Bible-thumping so-called Christians and Mormons and all of you people really believe in your Bible, then you truly would be more socialist than you claim to be. You would be a hell of a lot more environmentalist and a hell of a lot more socialist, because that is the way of Jesus. That is the way of righteousness. Take Jesus out of it. Take the 3 Abrahamic religions out of it. That is the righteous way to be. That is truly the highest frequency. That is the highest level of evolution. That is enlightenment. And if you so-called Christians, and I do say so-called Christians because there's beyond hypocrisy within that religion, and that's a whole nother soapbox that I'll go into, just beyond hypocrisy and Judaism. And the only religion that I can't say beyond hypocrisy on is the Abrahamic religion of Muslims. And I'm not immersed enough in that culture to be able to identify their hypocrisies, other than what their Hamas is doing, and Hezbollah and the terrorist groups, which is a big thing. And I'm not minimizing that, but I can't really, I can't speak on it because I really don't know that their history in that culture. I do know the Christian and Jewish history and culture, and the hypocrisy in that is beyond reproach. And but I would say all of you hypocritical, lying Christians, and I say you are lying, and I don't believe any of you guys, it's not my decision, but I don't believe any of you guys would make it to heaven. Nope, not one iota, because there is no way that you could be so anti-socialist, and particularly anti-socialist for your own people, that being American people. That includes the blacks, that includes the Mexicans, that includes the Asians, that includes everybody. That includes everybody that which is American. That includes all of them. There's no way you could be a Christian and have some of the values and attitudes that you have. And I think that socialism for my own people, that being my own people of American people, I endorse and I support. And I don't mean socialist by the terms of what's going on in Europe or the truest altruistic form of socialism. But I do mean that I do support paying my taxes to go for social issues. And, that being public transportation, that being healthcare, that being those types of things. we ought to pay for that. That's what my taxes should be paid for. Should be paid for infrastructure. I mean, to me, as a priority, as far as taxes are concerned, and this is going off on a tangent because I really am on my soapbox about praising Governor Abbott, but if I were to judge how I want my taxes spent, and I feel like that is our right. That is what the Boston Tea Party, no taxation without representation, and what the representation was for those people to be represented in England. Well, I have the same concept as far as how we tax people in this country. If I'm paying my taxes, I want to be able to have a say in where that money is going. And in this day and age, and the way that our society has been set up now, and how we have moved from being an isolationist country to a globalist country and a world police, our policing of the world has nothing, and whether you believe this or not, our policing of the world absolutely has nothing to do with ensuring democracy across the world. Our policing around the world has everything to do with securing resources, and those resources, as I've stated before, are not secured for the interest of the United States. Those resources are secured for the interest of corporations. And so I tie that back to the issue of, if I'm paying my taxes, I do not want to pay my taxes to go to the military. 90% of my tax going to the military, 60% of my tax going to, it's more like 60 to 70% realistically, and in pie charts and everything else. What you pay in taxes, about 60% of it goes to military. And the other 40% gets divvied up among social services. And I think that personally, that number ought to be reversed. I think not only should that number be reversed, but 75% needs to go to social services. The people in America, infrastructure, healthcare, education, our institutions, and our American way of life, and things like that. That is what our taxes ought to be going. 75%, not 75% to the military. 25% of our taxes can go to the military, and that's to protect our direct borders. And the reason why I say that is, when we were isolationist, yeah, it made more sense for us to beef up our military because we were going to be attacked as an isolationist country. But since we've taken the lead and now exploited resources across the world in the name of corporation, we have not exploited resources on the world and truly in the name of the United States. We've hidden the corporation agenda behind the American flag. But the only benefit hasn't even been to America. America isn't getting a kickback on the resources that are obtained. They're not getting a stockpile. They're not getting any of that. It's gone all to the corporation in the name of capitalism, so-called capitalism, and it's not. This is not true capitalism. And you certainly, in true capitalism, you don't use government military to go in and obtain resources, to use those resources in the name of corporations. We are not now. It would be different if it was a dictator state, or a fascist state, or something like that, or a communist state, where they would obtain resources in the name of the state, and then the state being the corporation itself, the state then harvesting the resources and then distributing the resources among the people. That would be a different system, right? But that's not the American system. But it's operating like that. It's acquiring the resources behind the flag in the name of corporations and capitalism, and allowing the corporations and capitalism to capitalize off of all of that without giving the benefit back to the United States. So I don't feel, as an individual paying my taxes, that I should be paying for the military to do that. Conversely, the solution to that, to me, is that the corporations need to be paying a significantly higher amount of taxes, because it's the corporations that are being used to obtain these resources in the name of our flag. So they can pay for that military might. They can pay for it. And I can damn well, other than the mercenaries, which are private military people who go in and create coups and everything else in the name of the state and in the name of corporations, other than that, you can very easily take that money from those people and have no allegiance, the military having no allegiance to the corporation. I mean, I can understand the anxiety of the majority of money in corporations being used for military, and military using that to expedite its imperialistic and and colonial desires. But you know, at this day and age and at this point, you know, everyday people should not be paying the taxes for the government to use our military, because it's our military. It's not the corporation's military. It's the United States and the public's, us people taxpaying military, using our military to go obtain resources to give it to corporations. That is not what our taxes and the majority of our taxes should be. And that is the dynamic. If you look at all the charts, and again, the infamous green screen that I so-called have, right? I do have it. But with that green screen, I would be able, because I'm not just talking off the cuff here, people. I do have receipts, literature, evidence of what I'm talking about here. And about 60% of our taxes that we pay, and we're about to pay taxes in April 15th, right? We have to do our taxes. 60% of that, of our money that we as individuals pay in taxes, 60% of that goes to the military. 60%. And the other 40% is what is used for social services. And when I say social services, because I mean, this is a whole discussion that and everything else. I'm talking about utilities. I'm talking about infrastructure and electricity, infrastructure and roads. I'm talking about healthcare. I'm talking about education. I'm talking about all of these things, right? That's what I'm talking about, right? That's what I believe in that. And I believe in that for our people only. Our people only. I believe in that. I truly, truly believe in that. And if that makes me a bleeding heart socialist and you can't stand to look at me because I feel that way, well, the only thing I can say to you is, I guess I got God's message better than you did. And it's not just God's message of the Abrahamic religions. It's not just his messages, but it's the message of higher frequency and enlightenment. And quite frankly, you're just not enlightened people if you don't see that. And I hate to insult you that way, but you have got to come up with a different definition and explanation of what it means to be so-called socialist. And every time I use that word socialism and socialists, I put it in quotes. I truly put it in quotes, and it's kind of a satirical way for me to use it, because I think it's laughable. I think it's unbelievably laughable to not, I mean, the amount of socialism that occurs for corporations. I mean, let's just be honest. Corporations have been subsidized and socialized for eons. What do you think us bailing them out and us giving them tax breaks and everything else? That is socialism. That is socialism. I mean, call a spade across the board. And us giving all these benefits and everything else to the corporations, Jeff Bezos and everything else, that is all socialism. So don't sit up here and say, oh, socialism to help your fellow man is wrong, but socialism to help corporations and agriculture and everything else is right. Because you're twisted. That's twisted. It's not thinking clearly. It really isn't. And again, I don't mean to insult you. I don't mean to attack you in that kind of way. I really don't. I don't know how to help you understand how to help us to win again, win as Americans. And socialism, especially before integration, socialism was extremely prevalent in American society based on what you consider socialism, helping your fellow man. You know, that was extremely prevalent before integration, before we integrated. And that's something to think about too, because the entire New Deal that was created, Social Security and unemployment benefits and everything else, all of that was created not for black people, because we were not integrated. We were completely separated in the North and the South. All of those governmental deals were done to help socialize for white people, because we were segregated societies. Okay? And not only just segregated, but segregated even without a vote. Okay? And that's just facts. I mean, facts, right? So, you know, this concept of you making socialism the dirty word, and because I have a support for my fellow man, I'm socialist and a bleeding heart, fine. And what are you? Because you're a conservative, you're somehow better? You're somehow above that? I would contend that if you are not, and you don't have socialistic views and a desire to help a fellow American first, that not only are you un-American, not only are you not a true Christian believer or an Abrahamic believer, but you are a part of the destruction of this country. We can take our taxes and use the government to regulate society and help society progress and still be capitalists, especially, and this is the biggest kick, especially if you use capitalism in the correct way. And many people have manipulated capitalism to expedite their own greed. And capitalism and wealth is not about stock trades and the stock market and investments and dividends. That's not capitalism. Capitalism is about creating a product, ingenuity, invention, and then reaping the rewards of your ingenuity and invention, and reaping the rewards of your own efforts in life. And because you are taxed does not mean, and because you are taxed does not mean that you are a socialist. But if you have made all of your money because of dividends, that is not capitalism. And having a economy that is so obsessed with bottom line economics and dividends and boards and things like that have not created anything, invented anything, no ingenuity, that is not capitalism. That's not capitalism. Think about it. Anyways, I went off on a tangent. I'm back to the topic. The topic is Governor Abbott. And I support everything that Governor Abbott has done. I support him taking as much of his military might, state might, and everything else and blocking the borders on his own. And the more that the federal government tries to fight him on that, the more the Democrats are going to lose. They're already losing, but they're going to lose big time on this issue, big time. Because the bottom line is, Democrats, you lost the blacks. You lost the black vote. You lost them. and you black Democrats that have been kissing up to these Democratic agenda and everything else, y'all are on the wrong side of it. I support everything Governor Abbott has done. I support him sending all of these migrants to these sanctuary cities. I support him putting those razors and those razor sharp barbed wires in the water on buoys. I support it. I support those people going down and building up walls on their own and putting huge connexes and containers and wrapping them in barbed wires all along the border. I support it. I support it. I believe in it, and I endorse it. Because the bottom line is, I work way too hard for these migrants to come in, and all of my resources being used for them. Not to mention that, and it's a part of the propaganda. It really is a part of the propaganda. I do not deny that a lot of it is propaganda. And a lot of it is designed to make Americans reject migrants and immigration. But the crime that has been reported by these migrants in all of these sanctuary cities, in Illinois, in Texas, in New York, the crime, the unsanitary behaviors and unhygienic behaviors of these migrants in these cities, the theft, the robberies, the gun charges, all of that is mounting up tremendously and quickly is real. And that's on them and their behavior. Because now you come into this country, we spend our taxes and resources to try and prop you up as best as we can, and you are so unappreciative that you go and start stealing, and you go and start robbing, and you go and start, man, I mean, clear sign of the lack of respect for this country that you so-called want to be a part of so much. It's not that. That's not what they want. And again, this is generalizations, right? Bell curve, outliers. The majority of the people that have migrated here, they're beautiful people. They're beautiful people. They are people nonetheless. I agree. And my heart and compassion goes out to them. But when we say in mental health, or when we say on an airplane, put your mask on and then assist your child, right? This is your child. And they want you to worry about you first and then help your child. When we say you can't love somebody else until you love yourself, when we say these things, it is the same as far as helping migrants who come here. We can't help them because we can't even help ourselves. We can't even afford our lives right now. We are not even prosperous. We still have inflation. The prices of things have not gone down. The only thing that has shut up people is the idea that the gas prices have gone down. But those prices of foods and goods and services and utilities and all these things, insurances, they have not gone down. We are not prosperous. How can we help anybody else when we can't even help ourselves? We can't even put our own mask on to put a mask on our children. This is our problem. And shame on our representatives who don't understand this and cannot see this. Yes, people are people, and I love all people nonetheless. I love them. I really do. And my heart goes out to them. But we can't help. We can't do it. You're asking the middle class and the lower class, you're asking us to help more people come in to be a part of the lower class. You're asking us to help them, and we can't do it. Go rely on the rich people who tout capitalism and make all their money off of dividends. Go move them into their neighborhoods. Go put them in their schools. Since they are the ones that believe in this so much, go bring them to your communities. You pay for them. But we can't do it. We cannot do it. This is not about divide and conquer and pit poor people against poor people and everything else. We can't do it. The thing that's going to put us against each other is the moment that we go for broke trying to help them. Then we're going to start attacking them, and they're going to start attacking us. We can't do it. That's what I'm on a soapbox about. Governor Abbott, I support you. Texas, I support you. I support all the efforts you are making to secure your borders. I support it. I truly support it. And that doesn't make me a racist, that doesn't make me a bigot, and that doesn't make me prejudiced. That makes me think that I want Americans to be prosperous, and I want American priorities first. And that's what I want. Does that make me a Republican? No, that doesn't make me a Republican, and it doesn't make me a Democrat. It makes me an American. And that's what I am. I'm an American. I'm probably way more American than a lot of you people here, whether you want to believe that, even being black. And I mean that.